Okay, hello and welcome to the third of our Tau Beta Pi quarterly town halls. My name is Tom Pinkham, serving as president of Tau Beta Pi, and I'll kick this off. I'll also be sharing the presentation duties with our executive director, Kurt Komolinsky, and our vice president, Colleen Hill-Saramczak. So we're going to cover a number of topics here, but first we're going to cover some of the logistics. We do have an AI summary on. It is taking notes of the meeting. On your Zoom, please rename yourself as noted here in the slide, and keep your mute on unless you need to speak. We're going to use the raise hand symbology to indicate that you'd like to kind of ask a question or whatever. And then this is really it's an opportunity for us to share some information, but also for you to kind of provide feedback or your thoughts as we kind of go through this. So it is intended to be open for two-way communication, and we'll stop when we need to for a question. So next slide. So this, the reason we do this is to continue to have communications between the executive council and the members and other association officials, make sure that we're transparent and communicating what it is that we are doing throughout the year, rather than just at the times where we see each other at district conferences and at convention. And it gives us an opportunity to listen to you in addition to those other opportunities, and lets other people hear what people are thinking. So, and as we've set out, we were doing these quarterlies, and so this is the third time we've done this. So we're going to continue this, and we will take a retrospective and evaluate the effectiveness of what we're doing here as we have conversations together in person over the coming months. What's next here? Is this, are we? Okay, so here's what we're going to cover. We're going to have a quick update on the communications task force and where we've taken the information that team has delivered and what we're doing with it. We will have an update on the strategic plan and the goals that we set, since we have some new data to share. We will talk about our 2026 convention plans as they're formulating right now. We'll take a quick look at a summary of some EC actions recently, and then Kurt will also give an update on some things that are going on at headquarters to make sure that people are aware of what it is that team is developing in service of our members and our officials. And then we'll have an open session again for questions of a general nature. All right, now I'll turn it over to Colleen, our vice president, and to talk about the communications task force. Go ahead, Colleen.
Hi, I'm going to just give you a quick update on what's happened since the last time we spoke. So our communications task force was chartered in December. I think we reported on that was happening. And then in January, we said that they had been meeting. This committee, or this task force, was multi-generational. So we had a few students, a few DDs, a few EC, and a few other members at large to meet together to talk through the problem statement, develop problem statements, rank them, and then propose solutions. So the report was issued in April. And Kurt's going to post a link to it. It's in the association officials drive. It's in the shared TBP shared drive. We've also created an improvement matrix in Monday.com so that we can assign tasks to people, and we're still that is ongoing. So we've set up the groups for task assignments are EC, headquarters staff, CPPC, which is Convention Program Planning Committee, Convention Improvement Task Force, which we're in the process of forming, and then DDs and then more. So this is an ongoing process. We're gonna implement as much as possible before the convention this year, but we know that this is not something that is going to be stable. It's going to be or static. It's going to be dynamic and ever changing. So, um, uh, next slide. So here were the ranked problem statements that I think we've talked about before. The logistic barriers that limit delegate participation, poor Wi-Fi, long days, mismatch, and Kurt has some later information about things that are already in the works for this year's convention, and we're still working on more. So mismatch between convention attendee expectations and experiences. So, and then what is the return on investment for convention, and make sure that that's communicated effectively before. And so we've asked for some help from association officials to make videos on their past convention experiences and things like that. So business meetings are intimidating, and we have they have the committee had some ideas for that, and we have some things that we're working to implement that we'll be looking for volunteers to help us staff help desk and things like that during business meetings so that people know exactly where they can get help with doing things that they want to do. And students, especially the first time attendees, we want to make sure that their input is valued, and they think they know their input is valued. So we're working on those are things that are ongoing. And inconsistent mentorship from association officials and EC hamper student leadership. So we're working on things that will help that as we're going forward. So things that we've put into the improvement matrix: reliable internet, schedule redesign, committee materials, and we've set a deadline for that on our calendar, and we're working towards getting as many convention materials as possible ready. We understand that people looking at that might have questions, and we might need more information, but we're making a concerted effort to hit that 60-day deadline. Videos communicating realities of convention. Those are things that I mentioned where we've asked for assistance. If you'd like to make a 30, 60-second video saying, what convention means to you, and tips and tricks and things like that. So, and we're still working on enhanced Robert's Rules training. If anyone wants to volunteer for some of that, please let us know. Value survey, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in later slides. And chair training, summary documents, committee meetings, all of these things have been assigned to different groups of people, and we're going to be working to improve and create these types of things. So if you see something where you think, oh, I know, I have some ideas on that, let us know. We're not intending to do this in a vacuum. So that's our goal, and we're working on making all of these things, as many of these things can happen before this October, And, we understand that certain things within our contract don't allow us to do everything immediately, but we'll be working with that Convention Improvement Task Force to continue the improvements that work and then also evaluate what works and what doesn't work. So, and Kurt has more about that in his convention updates. So now I'll hand it over to Tom and talk about our strategic update, strategic goals updates.
Thanks, Colleen. Thanks for covering that. All right. So just an update on the strategic goal. This is review. This slide, consistent. We set a goal on membership, a focus on membership growth, and on membership experience. We set near-term goals, and with the intent that by 2035 we're at a higher level, almost nearly double where we are formed last year. And for this year, our goal was set at trying to get to 9,000 new members initiated by chapters this year, and we'll talk about where we are with that, and then we're going to talk about where we are in terms of metrics around member experience and where we're going with that. So if you go to the next slide, ta-da! Last year we did 8,250. We set the goal at 9,000. This year, to date, processed through our systems, 8,309 new members. So we've got growth already. And then we have in process being reported prospects, we're calling them, of between 200 and 400 additional members that could add to that total. So that is great that we've got growth. We're seeing growth in the organization. So that's fantastic. And thanks to everybody's efforts for making that happen. I don't want to dwell too much on the fact that it's not 9,000, the number's not 9,000. I think the important thing here is that we're having a conversation about a direction, and we're bringing our minds to focus on the problem and what solutions we can put together that help bring more members to our chapters, more members to our organization to kind of increase the validity of and the value of the organization and the experience that people have as members. I'm seeing. We'll come back to notes. I'm not sure if that's a question in the chat, but we'll come back to it at the end of this section if we need to. So that's what I wanted. That's the big reveal. So I know that we will see more, and that's great. And we'll talk about where we go for next year. And that'll be something that we will have prior to convention, but we'll keep on working on member growth. All right, so the next metrics, next slide, is to measure member experience. And this is a slide we talked about prior at the prior town hall. We've landed on the idea of using Net Promoter Score methodology for a measurement of member experience. Would people recommend or to their friends or to other engineers that are eligible to become a member of Ta Beta Pi as an indicator of what they think of our organization, the value it provides to them and their experience with us. And we're refining the specifics of those, the questions that would go along with that. This is probably a methodology that a number of you have probably seen. If you've ever bought a product, you've gotten a survey, and the recommend question is the core question. That will be part of it. We will probably have a few additional supplemental questions. I think the next slide gets into that a little bit. That might potentially be in here. So just to give you a flavor of what we might be doing, is it worth the time and effort it requires of me? Do I feel like I belong? These are the kinds of questions that can go along with that would help us understand where we need to improve, and to make the member experience better. I mean, we're going to get all kinds of feedback, we hope, and then we will be able to process that and determine, well, is there something that guides us to prioritize one activity over another, or one behavior over another. And we do intend to try and get at least a pilot of this, but hopefully a good fielding of this survey prior to convention, so that we have a start of the year where we are trying to measure this. So that is what we're doing with respect to our strategic goal, to kind of continue to advance this, to grow our membership for the benefit of our chapters, and to understand what drives our members' experience to be better. And I think this is a slide we've talked about before. This comes down to what chapters do, right? And we have a lot of assists that we've been working on that we've had for years, and we've been working on developing and enhancing. Our chapter development team has pulled together some videos with some best practices that they can share that are done. I think those are behind this QR code. There are practices that work, that are proven, and we will continue to kind of communicate that to new leaders in chapters, so that they have the benefit of knowing what is a good methodology for attracting new members to the organization. And we intend to do more as we start to understand things like what we just talked about, where member experience surveys tell us what people think about what would make the membership experience better. That'll help guide us to focus on what activities we may want to emphasize, that we think are what people perceive as the true benefit of membership, right? That we focus on the right things that excite people to join our organization. So that's what I wanted to cover there. Kurt, were there questions in here that I should respond to? Let's see. Oh, okay. I see what it is. It's just more information. Okay. From Michael. Thank you. Yeah. Bring him in, Michael.
Yeah, and my question, Michael, are you talking about like the output of the communications task force and things in that area for improvement?
Actually, the question was addressed more so in response to Colleen's statements about some of these changes we're going to implement this year, but some we can't because of convention site limitations, and it was not at all clear which is which, and I'm sure there will be questions about that with the chapters.
Yeah, and I'll say if you when you have a chance to look at the whole communications task force, some of them, as Colleen said, are logistical things in terms of what meetings we have and when things have to happen because of contract. There are other things. One of the recommendations was having a business meeting skit. Ideally, we'd like to film that with the actual business meeting. Well, or use the same type of room as opposed to the conference room at headquarters. So in order to do that, we would actually need to be at convention. So that would be something that would not be able to happen before this year's convention. I think the communications task force also brought up things that are tangential or near convention, but not necessarily completely convention related, like why we love Tau Beta Pi videos, which would be great, but we won't have those in time for the convention either. So there are things like that where they're not going to necessarily happen this year. There are things where we're looking at schedule changes so that the days will start at 8 a.m., but then they conclude with dinner, and then anything after dinner is optional. So there are things like that that we are attacking, but there are some that will have to wait a little bit.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, just in general, I think, all the ideas came in, we needed to triage them and figure out which were feasible for implementation in the time frame we've got, given the constraints with time and resources that we have. And then there's a there's a multi-year thought that, there are other things that we should consider doing, but they require more planning, more time. So, okay. We're moving on to, talking about convention. So Kurt.
All right. Just a couple little pieces on convention and some dates, just so that everyone's on top of things. Some of you may have seen this, some of you may be aware of some of these things, some of you may not be. And if you have questions or want to know more, you can always reach out to me or to the executive council, and we can share more information. The dates of convention are listed at the top. As was mentioned earlier, one of the comms task force outputs was to have videos on what makes our convention different than other professional society events, and why should you invest the time in attending a Tau Beta Pi convention. So we've asked association officials, past convention attendees, to submit those videos this month so that we can start compiling those and share them on social media prior to convention. Some of you may be aware there are professional development sessions at convention, and we've put out a request for interest in facilitating those sessions, and those are due June 30th. We're also looking, as was mentioned, to make sure all the business that can be prepared in advance is distributed in advance. So I'll actually, later this week, we'll be sending an email to chapters and association officials. And if there's any new business that people would like tackled or things that people feel should be addressed, we'll ask that those come in by June 30th. The Convention Planning Committee has submitted a schedule to the Executive Council to look at this month, so we'll be publishing the schedule in July. Registration, we initially hoped it would be available June 1st. It actually is in pilot right now. It's being tested by headquarters right now. We changed some updates to say July 1st. It will be close to July 1st. The issue is, I'll talk a little bit later, is headquarters will be closed on July 1st. And we figured opening registration on the day when there's no one to answer questions would be a bad plan. Business materials plan to be distributed and posted by August 1st. Registration will end September 1st, and we need to be really tight on this year because of rooming list requirements and making sure people get assigned to committees so that they have time to review business materials in advance. So that will be September 1st. And we are planning to have a in-person recruiting fair on October 8th. So the Thursday of convention, there will be an in-person recruiting fair at convention. Just some highlights on some programming and changes that are being implemented. The Convention Program Planning Committee continues to meet to work through logistics. The convention will be at La Paloma Resort and Spa in Tucson, Arizona. The headquarters team had the opportunity to visit last month. It's going to be a great event. It'll be a very different location than many of you have ever been to a convention before, so it'll be a great experience. We are going to have activities on the University of Arizona campus, including tours. We will be marking the 100th anniversary of Arizona Alpha during our visit to campus. As I mentioned, start time is going to be at 8 a.m. and dinner will be between 5 and 6, between 5 and 6, and then the activities afterwards are optional. Things like professional development. There is a committee meeting scheduled on Friday night, but we are trying to front load committee work so that that time is not necessary. And if it is used, it would be by the committee officers probably finishing up their reports for Saturday. There'll be a welcoming social on Wednesday afternoon on the terrace outside the meeting facilities. We will have an EC candidate forum on Friday night. We did that last year on Thursday. This year it'll be Friday. And we are looking at having local cultural events being explored, trying to bring in something cultural to the event so that people can get a little feel of Arizona and the Tucson area. Those are the things I wanted to touch on for convention. So I'm going to hand it back to Michael had a question. Yes, we will make sure that it's included in e-notes and other locations about the convention schedule, social media, etc. All right. I will turn it over to Tom to talk a little bit about some of the things the council has done since our last town hall.
Okay, thanks. You can flip to the next slide. All right. Counselors made trips to district conferences and updated all the members that attended, the leaders that attended those conferences on our activities, and some of the same information we're sharing here was shared there, as well as just a general overview of the organization as appropriate for bringing new leaders into the to understand a little bit more of our organization. We did the appointment of new facilitators and a district director. We've created and appointed members to committees, task forces, to staff those and get the staggering of terms set up right so that those teams can function. We recognize our volunteers with resolutions of appreciation and other awards depending on service level. So we did that. We approved bylaws from chapters, updated a couple of policies. Some of you might know there's been some legal changes. The Secure 2.0 Act required changes to retirement plans documents. So our administrator had some changes that needed to be made to the employee retirement plan. And so we needed to approve those because that's a legal requirement that we had to fulfill. We have been for several months now, really, starting to think about the planning of an association officials meeting in June, preparing agenda topics and preparing for that. And then we're hearing updates from our task forces, like the one we mentioned earlier, the communications task force committees. We hear from our liaisons that are participating in a number of the council designated committees as to what they're currently working on. And then we also hear from Kurt about what's going on at headquarters. Next slide, please. So from convention last year, there were a number of follow-ups that came out of that were needing follow-up based on the output of that meeting. So we have continued to publicize the fact that EC meetings can be attended by any members that are interested. We have had some participants. We did these town halls as a means of continuing to communicate what is going on in the organization throughout the year. The convention minutes did get published. The communications task force that we heard from, that was that was a brand new thing, right? We chartered that in December to kind of investigate some of the challenges that we saw and some of the frustrations expressed at convention, and so that was done. And the surveys, we had done members or participant surveys, and all that data was consolidated, reviewed by the convention team that works at headquarters. They've ran through all that data that gave guidance on the schedule and all the work that they're doing in planning this year's convention to the degree that we can make the changes that people would like to see. We are trying to make positive changes to reflect the feedback that we're getting. We have a form that lets people express their interest in volunteer opportunities, and a feedback form that lets people talk about their questions or any comments that they have. So that is Kurt, that's probably these links are here in the document, right? I think that's what these are. I'm just not sure where else they're publicized.
Yes,
That's
and
my
we'll
question.
make sure the slides get published as well.
Right, right. Um, and that's the end of that slide. Couple of things still being worked on. The convention history. You can go to the next slide. The summary of EC meetings, and there's some past years convention minutes and histories where there's gaps in our published minutes. So those are all activities that are being worked on as time allows. There's other things we have to be prioritizing to make sure we get done. These things are also being worked on, so they're not forgotten. All right. That is, I think, the end of this section. Kurt has headquarters. Okay.
And I'll address Michael's questions in chat. Yes, a June meeting agenda is going to be shared in advance. I'm not sure if it'll be more than a week, but the goal is to have that distributed about a week in advance. Right, Tom?
Sure. We hadn't set that deadline, but we can try and do that.
I will say there is a rough schedule in place. It's
I
just
mean,
finishing. Yeah.
there is an agenda. There is an agenda. There are topics that we've already decided we're talking. That's been in existence. We haven't finalized a number of the sub topics underneath it, but and the content that's being worked on. So yeah.
And I don't know if we're fortunate enough that Kelly is on the Zoom. I don't know if she wants to make a comment on the number of pending chapter bylaws. You feel free, Kelly.
Hey everyone, so I was just typing it out, but I might as well just say it because it'll be quicker. So we have caught up the submissions all the way up to April 1st, 2026. So everything past that, we're just now getting to review and getting them through for the headquarters approval and or EC approval if they move forward. So tell your chapters, all of them at this point, to update their constitutional references because we're ready for more.
And I will note, yes, it seems like a small amount, but that's just in this. There have only been 2 EC meetings since the last quarterly town hall, and I know that Kelly's team is working through those diligently to make sure they all get done. So a few headquarters updates for everybody. Kim Smolter actually started back in February, but I don't think we made an actual announcement at the last town hall. But Kim is our newest chapter services team member. She is working on convention planning. So she is working this year with Andrea Dake closely on convention planning, with hopes that she will be taking over a lot of the responsibilities for convention planning moving forward. She is also going to be coordinating our Engineering Futures program from headquarters, and then is handling a lot of other support work. She's helping Kelly's team in member support and chapter support. So she's drinking from the fire hose right now and learning a lot, but she's been great so far. And she's also been helping those of you who are association officials, helping coordinate our June meeting. We did install one chapter on North Carolina ADA at Campbell University. And in fact, Dean Jenna Carpenter is on the call this evening, who's also an executive counselor. So we were thrilled to add them to our active chapter list. It hasn't been shown in a few years, but those of you who've attended past conventions know that we typically would have a historical video during the final business meeting. And it in itself has become historical because it was made in 2011 and has several out-of-date references. So headquarters has been working with a team here in Knoxville to get a new historical video taken care of, which we hope to debut at the final banquet on Saturday night. The ritual Ritual Kit Task Force is underway. I know Drew and Michael, who are here with us tonight, are working on that, and good progress is being made. And hopefully, we will have a new pilot kit to for the Rituals Committee to explore at convention. The big thing is tied to the launch of the convention registration system is what has been being worked on and behind the scenes for a while is what we call the Tau Beta Pi portal, which will be slowly replacing all other systems that Tau Beta Pi uses. The only thing you can do right now in it is update your contact information. But you'll also be able to use it to register for convention. And over the next several years, the plan is that fellowships and scholarships, awards management, the electronic reporting system, and all other pieces will be slowly moving to that system over time as we work through it. I'll say that the IT team has been working on it, not secretly, but they showed it to me last month, and I practically fell off my chair because I said, wow, it looks like Tau Beta Pi is in the 21st century. So we're excited for that and what that's going to bring for us. I had updated this slide, but it doesn't actually show the bullet on screen. One other thing, the electronic reporting system will soon have tutorial videos in it. So chapters that don't know how to submit a report of eligibility, election, final action, and other components moving forward, there will be some videos built into that to help out with that. So we're looking forward to that. The other thing I wanted to mention, all of you are the first ones to see it. In fact, the counselors haven't even seen this yet. They'll see it next week. But ratification ballot results, our original deadline was April 1st. It was extended until June 1st. I will note we received, I think, close to 100 ballots in that 2-month period. So the extension was helpful. There were oh, see, something's wrong there. I don't think I actually typed a number in right. Yeah, I did. The number of ballots received by June 1st was not 236. That's a mistake. You can do the math on your own if you'd like between the yes, no, invalid votes. Actually, that's it. There are 206 valid ballots received for Amendment 1 and 207 valid ballots received for Amendment 2. There were 236 votes required to ratify, 78 required to defeat. So the chapter vote is inconclusive, and the Executive Council will consider the ratification ballots at their meeting in June and whether or not to vote for chapters that did not vote or submitted invalid ballots. Few headquarters reminders. I alluded to this a little bit earlier. This will be the first year we will be having a headquarters shutdown. So Saturday, June 27th through Sunday, July 5th, Tau Beta Pi headquarters will be closed. And so there will not be email or advisor support, email or phone call support during that time, unless it's an emergency. And the only emergencies I've defined so far are headquarters is on fire or the entire website is down. So unfortunately, an initiation that is not approved is not an emergency. Chapters and everyone else needs to plan ahead. So please keep that in mind. Flooding, headquarters has never flooded. That won't happen, Ben. But wait, no, it has. Hopefully there won't be locusts, would be my concern. Executive Council nominations are due July 1st. The Tau Beta Pi's fiscal year end is July 31st. For most of you, that's not a big issue, but anyone who's a volunteer, that means expense reports are due before July 31st. Our next town hall is tentatively planned for September 16th. We've been trying to look at doing these like the first Wednesday or Thursday of the month. The problem is that's actually before Labor Day, and there's a lot of schools that won't even be in session until after Labor Day. I mentioned the in-person recruiting fair is going to be in October 8th, first day of convention. There will also be a virtual recruiting fair on September 24th. And those are all the items I had. And now we can open it up to anybody that has any questions about any particular topic that was mentioned or was not mentioned.
You're on mute.
Hey everybody, can everybody hear
There we
me?
go. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm Oliver from the Texas Delta chapter. When I was a chapter president back to 2024, I always came across with a problem that some student like think Tau Beta Pi is a scam. That was pretty sad for me because when I sent out the email invitation to all the classes, all the qualified students, some people say, "Oh, are you guys a scam or you just no?" I was like, "No." I mean, I tried to explain to everybody that Tao Beta Pi is legit. It's a very good places you can feel belonging, achieving. So, and I think this is not the only problem for our chapter. I mean, I think like the student in many universities not aware of Tau Beta Pi. So my question for the headquarters is, do you guys have ever thought about how to solve this problem? That might be a tough question, but that's why I want to hear about what you guys think.
I guess, do we think about it? Yes. Have we heard it before? Yes. Um, there are a number of or organizations that are appealing to for their time and their money, some of which have commercial interests, and others have interests like ours, which are to honor you within the profession. Um, I don't have a magic answer for this. I mean, certainly I hope our website looks legitimate, and that they would investigate us through that point, but through that avenue. Um, I don't know if anybody else has a thought that they want to kind of add where they've seen a good answer to this kind of a skepticism.
Yeah, actually, from my end, our team at Texas Delta chapter has some strategy. Like every time we send the invitation to the new members, potential new members, we asked Dr. Dunbar. We asked her to send the email, and it turned out that the turnout rate is getting better. So
Yeah.
it's much better. It's like we have a professor to send the email instead of the student. And might be one way, one
Yeah.
strategy we can use, but there might be something other. But
Well, that certainly is one that, as I mentioned before, there's a number of best practices that have been publicized, maybe not publicized well enough to leaders, but that is one of the things that we talk about, and that is to have dean's letters being accompanying the invitation or be the invitation given to eligible members, because the legitimacy which it provides us, because it comes from the administration of the engineering college.
okay, cool.
This
Thank
is
you.
Jenna Carpenter, so I am a dean. Certainly, we try to do the same thing. Invitations that come from the dean or some other person that they trust tend to be accepted. The other thing we try to do is make sure that Tau Beta Pi activities are visible to all of our students. They sponsor donuts on the first day of E-Week and other sorts of things. So if students are aware that that's a student organization on campus, like ASME and the other ones, then that sort of helps establish legitimacy, and helps people respond.
That's great. Thank you, Dr. Carpenter. Great to see you virtually.
Yeah. And by the way, go Ags. My son's an Aggie, so.
That's perfect. Thank you. And also, I want to add something more. Recently, I have been discussing with Dylan. Do you guys know Dylan, the editor of the Bent magazine? I have given many of my suggestions to him because he's the guy that I communicate most to the headquarters, including my personal column. So I think maybe next time you guys met, Dylan can bring all my idea to you guys' attention. Thank you.
And I'll just add, Oliver, and I know it's a challenge for a school like Texas A&M, a little bit easier for Campbell, but one of the things we try to advocate too is whenever possible, having chapters try to make personal contact with eligible candidates. I know that there's, I think, close to 1,000 eligible students at Texas A&M, so that becomes a challenge, but the ability for, your members to split up that list and potentially, just, encourage people that they know to join can be a helpful thing to, mitigate that, oh, it's a scam email, and add some legitimacy to that.
Yeah, I got it. I totally agree. A&M is too big sometimes. Uh, every time the last time I sent an email, people don't recognize it. But for now, we ask like our advisor to send an email. It's much better. The turnout rate is higher.
Yeah. Any other questions? Has this been useful to people? Give me a thumbs up. Good. Few. All right.
And I think Ben has a question.
Oh, is
Yeah,
that one?
I rose my hand at a very inopportune time. Yeah, just one question that came up with the chapter I advise. They were looking at their reports. I think we got it clarified with headquarters that they did in fact turn in their officer signature page, but it hadn't appeared in the system. And I do recall there being a similar issue last year where I think there were a few reports that weren't processed, like they were turned in on time, but they weren't necessarily processed by HQ on time for the secretary's comment, or sorry, not secretary's commendation. It's the was Chapter Excellence Award now. But I just wanted to see if there was any update. Like, do we believe that that issue has been resolved, or is that something that this reporting or this portal system will resolve moving forward?
I'll let Kelly talk in a second, but I'll say that the portal system will not immediately address it because the chapter reporting system is probably at least a year or two off from being fully integrated into that. But I'll let Kelly touch on the actual chapter reports because I know she was just talking to me about that this week or last week.
Yes, Ben, thanks for pointing that out. That's one of the few things that we're kind of ironing out in the system. We have, especially officer elections, it's been, even with the grading, how we used to fully grade the signatures report and with the grading of the full report itself as two separate entities. Now in the system, you can't update your officers without submitting a new signatures report. So those two are kind of going hand in hand, and a lot of that is being like unweaved in the back end of the website. I'm not software engineer, so I don't understand the language of that. So I'm hoping that you do. But it should be ironed out by the fall because we've been trying every instance of, hey, this is wrong. Hey, this is wrong. That's our only data point because when we did beta testing last year, we only had a couple of chapters do beta testing. So now we're trying to get to that full speed ahead on reports. But please, if you come across anything, let us know.
And I'll add, I know Kelly and her team have been methodically going through reports, trying to make sure that everything's caught up to date before the chapter excellence time. And I will say that grading and processing of certain reports is very clunky with the current system, and they are looking at ways to make that a little less clunky. Kelly has even suggested an automatic grading process so that reports are automatically graded. So that's something that's being explored, at least assigning a partial grade so that chapters know that that's been received and is going to be looked at.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate that, and I also appreciate that. I know that the team was fairly new during the last election or last academic cycle. So, keep up the good work.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I mean, I think it's a good point that people need to understand. We've been building a new team, and Kelly and Kurt have been basically training a number of people on our practices and a little bit of our history.
Yeah, our entire chapters team is new from a standpoint of myself from April of last year, and then Sean September, October of last year, which is our chapter specialist. So there is a lot of training, and with the system changes and just all of the multitude of things, we're getting there. But just a little bit more patience and we'll be there. Thank you.
All right. I sense that we're questioned out. I appreciate everybody's time to be here for the past almost hour. Appreciate everybody. I know a number of you are chapter leaders and association officials, so and alumni chapter officers and advisors, call them that out too. So I appreciate all of your assistance to our chapters throughout the past year and your service to Tau Beta Pi. So thank you for all that. And we will talk again in this kind of a forum and maybe before for some of you. So thanks for being here and thanks for everything you do. Good night.
Thank you for having us. See some of you guys soon.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thank you very much. You guys have a great night.
Okay.
Good night.